The scream cut through the marketplace like a blade. Queen Elena's head snapped toward the sound, her trained eyes scanning the crowd of alien vendors and shoppers. Their small figure writhing in the grip of a massive Krex trader, its chitinous claws wrapped around a child's thin arm. "Please," the girl whispered, her violet skin pale with terror. "I have money." The Krex's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Don't save you now, little Zephyrian. The hunt begins." Elena's blood turned to ice. She knew those words. Every human diplomat stationed in the outer colonies learned about the Krex hunting rituals. Legal on their homeworld, tolerated in neutral space. A sport where the weak became prey for entertainment. The crowd formed a circle, some turning away in disgust, others leaning in with morbid fascination. No one moved to help. The girl couldn't be more than 12 standard years old, her large silver eyes darting frantically between the faces surrounding her. Captain Reeves, Elena's lead guard, stepped closer. His hand rested on his sidearm, but protocol demanded they avoid incidents in neutral territory. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "we should contact local authorities." "Local authorities allow this," Elena replied, never taking her eyes off the scene. The Krex was already dragging the girl toward a narrow alley between market stalls. In minutes, she'd disappear into the station's lower levels, where screams echoed unheard. Elena had spent 15 years building diplomatic relationships across 7 star systems. Wars had been prevented through her careful negotiations. Peace treaties bore her signature. But watching this child's terror, all that political calculation crumbled. She stepped forward. "Release her," Elena said, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet marketplace. The Krex paused, its 6 compound eyes focusing on her. Recognition flickered. The human queen's face was known throughout this sector. "This is not your concern, Royal." The prey was fairly claimed. Under what law? Predator's right. She wandered alone into territory I marked as hunting ground. Elena looked at the girl, whose breathing came in rapid, shallow gasps. "You marked a public marketplace?" "The scent markers were placed legally," the Krex hissed. "Any who enter accept the risk," the crowd murmured. Elena caught fragments of conversation, debates about jurisdiction, legal precedents, the complexity of interspecies law in neutral space, academic discussions while a child faced death. "Show me these markers," Elena demanded. Captain Reeves touched her shoulder. "Majesty, we're already pushing diplomatic boundaries." Elena raised her hand, silencing him. The Krex's grip tightened on the girl, who whimpered. Predator species throughout the galaxy used scent markers invisible to most other races. If this creature had followed proper protocol, local law was technically on its side. "The markers," she repeated. The Krex gestured with one free claw toward nearly invisible scratches on nearby support beams. Elena recognized the pattern territorial claims that would be legally binding in most neutral territories. "You see?" The Krex's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile. "All proper, the hunt proceeds." Elena felt her guards tense behind her. 12 Royal Marines, each capable of ending this situation in seconds. But the political implications would be devastating. Human forces attacking a Krex citizen in neutral space could ignite conflicts across multiple systems. The girl looked directly at Elena then, and spoke in perfect standard Galactic. "Please don't let it hurt me." Something shattered inside Elena's chest. Perhaps it was the careful diplomacy she'd built her life around. Perhaps it was the weight of crown and duty that had shaped every decision for 15 years. All she saw was a child who believed in her power to provide protection. Elena removed her ceremonial cloak and dropped it on the ground between herself and the Krex. "I challenge the validity of your claim," she announced, her voice carrying to every corner of the marketplace. Silence fell like a physical weight. The Krex's eyes widened. Captain Reeves stepped forward with obvious alarm. "Majesty," he whispered urgently, "you can't. Under Galactic Treaty 347? B. Any territorial claim can be disputed through formal challenge if evidence suggests fraudulent marking," Elena continued, never breaking eye contact with the Krex. "I claim this child enjoys diplomatic protection as a potential witness to illegal territorial fraud. The assertion was legally questionable at best, but it would require immediate arbitration, creating delay that could save the girl's life." Elena had wagered everything on the Krex choosing legal procedure over risk of intergalactic incident with the human royal family. The marketplace remained frozen. Elena's cloak lay between predator and prey like a boundary line drawn in blood. The Krex hunter's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of confusion among its species. Elena could see the calculation happening behind those compound eyes. Legal challenge meant tribunal review. Tribunal review meant attention from the Galactic Council. Council attention meant scrutiny of Krex hunting practices throughout neutral space. "You would risk war for one worthless Zephyrian child?" the creature asked. Elena stepped forward until she stood directly beside the girl. "I would risk war for what's right." The words hung in the air like a challenge to the universe itself. Around them, the marketplace held its collective breath. Aliens from a dozen different species watched as human royalty placed herself between predator and prey. Captain Reeves moved his hand to his weapon. The other guards spread into defensive positions. Whatever Elena had started, they would finish. The Krex looked from Elena to the girl, to the armed humans surrounding them. Its grip loosened slightly, but didn't release. "You make a dangerous game of this, Queen," it hissed. "Then let's play." The creature's eyes narrowed. It had expected diplomacy, careful negotiation, perhaps a monetary settlement. Instead, it faced something that didn't translate in its predator's mind, a being willing to sacrifice everything for a stranger. Elena placed her hand on the girl's free arm. The child's skin was cold with fear, but she stood straighter at the contact. Trust radiated from her silver eyes. Trust that a human queen would honor her word. The crowd pressed closer, sensing that history was being written in this moment. Communications devices appeared as observers began recording. Whatever happened next would be transmitted across the galaxy within minutes. The Krex hunter realized too late that it had become the hunted, not by claws or teeth, but by something far more dangerous: public attention and moral scrutiny. "Release her now," Elena repeated, "or face the consequences." The creature's grip tightened one final time, then opened completely. The girl stumbled forward into Elena's protective embrace. Around them, the marketplace erupted in surprised murmurs and heated debates, but Elena only saw the child's face, alive and safe in her arms. The Krex hunter towered over them both, its chitinous plates rattling with rage. "This is not finished, Queen. You have made powerful enemies today." "Then I'm in good company," Elena replied, helping the girl steady herself. "Are you hurt?" The child shook her head, silver eyes wide with amazement. I thought I was going to die. What's your name?" "Kira. Kira Veltarin." She paused, then added in a whisper, "You really stopped it. You really saved me." Elena felt something twist in her chest. In 15 years of ruling, she'd never experienced anything as purely meaningful as this moment. All the treaties and negotiations paled beside one child's gratitude. Captain Reeves approached cautiously. "Majesty, we need to move. Station security is responding to the disturbance." Around them, the crowd was discussing rapidly in multiple languages. Elena caught fragments: legal analysis, political speculation, moral arguments. The consensus seemed divided between admiration and concern for the diplomatic implications. The Krex hunter made a sound like grinding metal. "You think your protection extends beyond this moment?" "The girl walks alone eventually. Predators are patient." "Then perhaps," Elena said quietly, "she won't walk alone anymore." Kira looked up at her in confusion. Captain Reeves raised an eyebrow. Even Elena wasn't entirely sure what she'd meant by those words, but they felt inevitable as soon as she'd spoken them. Station security arrived, 6 armed officers from various species, looking uncertain about how to handle a situation involving human royalty. Their leader, a reptilian sword with ceremonial scarring, approached with visible reluctance. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "we've received reports of a disturbance. Is intervention required?" The question was diplomatic code. He was asking whether Elena wanted the Krex arrested, which would create an immediate interspecies incident. Elena looked at Kira, then at the hunter watching them with predatory patience. "The situation has been resolved peacefully," she announced, "though I would appreciate an escort back to my diplomatic quarters." It was a masterful deflection. By requesting escort rather than arrest, she avoided creating an incident while ensuring the hunter couldn't follow them immediately. The security leader nodded with obvious relief. "Of course, Your Majesty. If you would follow us." As they walked through the marketplace, Elena felt eyes on them from every direction. Word was spreading rapidly through the station's communication networks. By the time they reached the diplomatic quarters, every major news service in this sector would know that the human queen had personally intervened to save a Zephyrian child from a legal hunting claim. Kira stayed close to Elena's side, her small hand gripping the queen's arm. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Elena replied, though she wasn't entirely sure herself, "we figure out how to keep you safe." Captain Reeves opened the security doors to Elena's quarters. The diplomatic suite was designed to accommodate interspecies meetings, with adjustable environmental controls and furniture that could adapt to various alien physiologies. "Majesty," Reeves said as soon as they were inside, "we need to discuss the implications of what just happened." Elena guided Kira to a comfortable chair and requested food and water from the automated systems. The girl hadn't eaten in 12 hours. Judging by her weakened condition. "I'm aware of the implications, Captain. Are you?" His voice carried years of loyalty mixed with professional concern. "You've just challenged a legal hunting claim in neutral space. The Krex delegation will demand satisfaction. The Galactic Council will require formal hearings, and every predator species in this sector now sees you as personally invested in protecting prey races." Elena watched Kira accept a cup of water with trembling hands. The girl's silver eyes never left Elena's face, as if afraid the protection might disappear if she looked away. "Yes," Elena said simply. "I understand." Reeves studied her expression. "This changes everything. You can't go back to standard diplomatic protocols after this. You've drawn a line. Good." The captain blinked in surprise. "Good?" Elena turned to face him fully. "James, how many diplomatic receptions have we attended in the past 5 years? How many trade negotiations and peace conferences and cultural exchanges? Dozens, Majesty. Perhaps hundreds. 2. And how many times have we actually saved someone's life?" Reeves paused, understanding beginning to dawn in his expression. "This is different from your usual approach to leadership. Maybe my usual approach needed changing." Kira had finished the water and was now eating protein cubes from the diplomatic rations. Color was returning to her violet skin, and her breathing had stabilized. Elena knelt beside her chair. "Kira, tell me about yourself. Do you have family? Friends? Somewhere safe to go?" The girl's expression darkened. "My parents died in a mining accident last year. I've been working in the lower levels, cleaning maintenance shafts. Today was my rest period, so I came up to see the marketplace." She paused. "I've never seen so many different species in one place before. What about guardians? Anyone responsible for your care?" "The station doesn't track orphans unless they cause trouble. I stay quiet, work hard, don't ask for help." Kira's voice was matter-of-fact, but Elena heard the loneliness beneath it. Captain Reeves accessed his communication device. "Majesty, I'm receiving multiple urgent messages from the human diplomatic corps. The galactic news networks are already reporting the incident. Parliament wants an immediate briefing." Elena nodded but didn't move from Kira's side. "What else?" "The Krex delegation has filed a formal complaint with station authorities. They're demanding compensation for interference with legal hunting rights. They want a public apology and financial damages. They can file their complaints with the Galactic Council," Elena replied. "I'll respond through proper diplomatic channels." Kira looked up from her food. "What's a diplomatic channel?" Elena smiled, the first genuine smile she'd felt in hours. "It's how rulers talk to each other when they're trying to solve problems without fighting." "Will it work? Will they stop hunting me?" The question cut straight to the heart of everything Elena was wrestling with. Diplomatic channels were useful for trade disputes and territorial negotiations, but could they truly protect one orphaned child from creatures who saw her as prey? "I don't know," Elena admitted, "but I promise you this. We're going to find out." Captain Reeves cleared his throat. "Majesty, there's something else. The Zephyrian government has sent a message. They're grateful for your intervention." "Of course they are. One of their citizens was protected. It's more than that." He paused, reading from his device. They're offering to formalize a protection treaty, joint security protocols for Zephyrian civilians in neutral space. Elena felt something click into place. They want to make this bigger than one incident. Much bigger. If the humans and Zephyrians create formal protection agreements, other prey species will want similar treaties. You've potentially started a massive shift in how predator-prey relationships are managed throughout neutral space. Kira had stopped eating and was listening intently. Does that mean others won't get hunted either? Elena met the girl's silver eyes. In them, she saw not just gratitude, but hope. Hope that her suffering might prevent others from facing the same terror. That's exactly what it means, Elena said. The communication device chimed with another urgent message. Captain Reeves checked it, then looked up with a puzzled expression. What is it? Elena asked. The Krex hunter. It's requesting a private meeting with you. Elena felt every muscle in her body tense. Absolutely not. The request comes through official diplomatic channels. It claims to have information about broader hunting operations throughout this sector. Information you'll want to hear. Kira gripped Elena's hand. Don't go. It's a trap. Elena looked at the fear in the girl's eyes, then at Captain Reeves with his professional assessment of threats and opportunities. The smart diplomatic choice was obvious. Ignore the hunter's request, proceed with formal treaty negotiations, and let the legal system handle any broader issues. But Elena was beginning to realize that the smart diplomatic choice had never actually protected anyone. Set up the meeting, she said quietly. Majesty? Both Reeves and Kira began simultaneously. Elena raised her hand. 1 hour from now. Full security detail. Recording everything for legal purposes. And, Captain?
Yes, Majesty.
Bring weapons. The hour passed like a countdown to execution. Elena spent the time reviewing everything she knew about Krex psychology, hunting practices, and legal frameworks. Captain Reeves coordinated with station security to ensure maximum protection. Kira sat quietly in the corner, occasionally asking questions about diplomatic protocol. Why do you want to talk to it? Kira asked finally. Elena paused in her research. Because if we're going to stop the hunting, we need to understand how it works, how many others are involved, how they choose their targets. But it could hurt you. It could try, Elena replied. But I have 12 highly trained Marines, station security, and diplomatic immunity. You had none of those things when it grabbed you. Kira nodded slowly. You're being brave so others don't have to be. The simplicity of that observation struck Elena like a physical blow. In all her years of ruling, no one had ever described her job that way. But somehow, this 12-year-old girl had captured the essence of leadership better than any political theorist. Captain Reeves announced the hunter's arrival. Elena checked her appearance in the mirror. Crown straight, diplomatic robes properly arranged, expression calm and controlled. The queen who would meet with the Krex was the same one who had stopped it in the marketplace, but now she carried the full weight of royal authority. Kira, she said, I want you to stay in the inner chamber until this is finished. But I want to help. You are helping. By staying safe, you're giving me one less thing to worry about. The girl nodded and retreated to the secured room. Elena waited until the doors closed, then signaled Captain Reeves to admit their visitor. The Krex hunter entered, flanked by 2 station security officers and 3 of Elena's Marines. Its chitinous plates gleamed under the diplomatic suite's lights, and its compound eyes fixed immediately on Elena's position. Thank you for seeing me, Queen, it said, its voice a carefully modulated hiss. Why did you request this meeting? Because you have started something that will consume us all. Elena remained standing, forcing the creature to look up at her despite its greater size. Explain. The hunt you interrupted was not random prey selection. The Zephyrian child was specifically targeted. By whom? The hunter's mandibles clicked rapidly. A consortium of predator species. We call it the Circle. For 3 years, we have been expanding our hunting privileges throughout neutral space. Elena felt ice form in her veins. Expanding how? Legal loopholes, jurisdictional gaps, diplomatic immunity. We have made hunting legal in places it was never intended to be legal. The creature paused. The child was selected because her death would test whether human royalty would interfere in our operations. A test. Yes. to determine if the humans represented a threat to our expansion plans. Elena's hands clenched into fists. And now you have your answer. Indeed. But, Queen, you do not understand what you have opposed. The Circle includes representatives from 12 predator species across 7 star systems, hundreds of hunting operations, thousands of prey claimed legally every year. Legally. Through careful exploitation of interspecies law, we have made ourselves untouchable while staying technically within galactic legal frameworks. Elena began to understand the scope of what she'd stumbled into. One girl's rescue had revealed an organized system of exploitation spanning multiple star systems. Why tell me this? She asked. The hunter's eyes glittered. Because your intervention today was broadcast across the galaxy. Every prey species now knows that humans will protect them. Every predator species now sees humans as enemies of the hunt. Good. You do not understand. The creature's composure cracked slightly. The Circle has resources you cannot imagine. Political connections, legal teams, military assets. They will not simply ignore what you have done. Elena stepped forward until she stood directly in front of the creature. Are you threatening me? I am warning you. Leave the Circle's operations alone, and they will leave you alone. Continue to interfere, and they will consider you a legitimate target for hunting. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Elena felt Captain Reeves tense behind her, his hand moving toward his weapon. They would hunt a human queen? Elena asked quietly. The Circle hunts any prey that threatens their operations. Species is irrelevant. Status is irrelevant. You have made yourself prey by protecting prey. Elena smiled then, a cold expression that made even her own Marines step back slightly. Then perhaps, she said, it's time someone hunted the hunters. The conference room aboard Elena's flagship felt charged with dangerous energy. Representatives from 8 species sat around the curved table, their expressions ranging from eager to terrified. Elena had called this meeting within 12 hours of her encounter with the Krex hunter, and the response had been immediate. Kira sat beside Elena's chair, officially designated as a diplomatic consultant, a legal fiction that granted the girl protection under human royal protocols. The child's presence served as a living reminder of why they were all here. Before we begin, Elena announced, I want everyone to understand the stakes. We're not discussing trade agreements or territorial boundaries. We're talking about organized predation disguised as legal hunting. We're talking about children being murdered for sport. The Zephyrian ambassador, a tall figure with silver skin similar to Kira's, spoke first. Your Majesty, the Zephyrian government supports any action to protect our citizens. But according to our legal analysis, the Circle's operations are technically within galactic law. Then we change the law, Elena replied simply. The Centaurian representative, whose people had lost dozens to hunting operations over the past year, leaned forward eagerly. What do you propose? Elena activated the holographic display at the center of the table. Data began flowing. Hunting records, legal documents, territorial claims, victim statistics. The scope of the Circle's operations became visible in stark detail. Hundreds of deaths per year, Elena said, as the numbers scrolled past. All technically legal. All carefully designed to exploit gaps in interspecies law. She paused the display on a particularly damning section. But here's what they didn't expect. Coordinated opposition. The Andromedan ambassador, whose crystalline face remained unreadable, made a sound like wind chimes. Opposition requires military force. Few prey species possess adequate defensive capabilities, which is why we're creating them, Elena replied. Captain Reeves stepped forward, activating a new section of the display. Military specifications, fleet deployments, training protocols, everything needed for a coordinated defense force. The Galactic Protection Initiative, Elena announced. Joint military forces specifically designed to counter predator hunting operations. Shared intelligence networks, rapid response capabilities. Legal frameworks that supersede current loopholes. The room erupted in surprised conversation. The scale of what Elena was proposing went far beyond simple diplomatic protests. She was talking about fundamentally restructuring how species interaction worked throughout neutral space. The Procyon representative raised a tentacle nervously. Your Majesty, the Galactic Council will never approve such sweeping changes. Predator species hold significant political influence. Kira spoke for the first time since the meeting began. Then we don't ask for approval. The adults turned to stare at her. Elena felt a surge of pride at the girl's courage. Explain, Elena encouraged. Kira stood up, her silver eyes bright with determination. The law says hunting is legal in neutral space, but it also says every species has the right to protect its citizens, so we protect them. Without council approval? The Zephyrian ambassador asked. The Galactic Council didn't approve the Circle's hunting operations, Kira replied. They just didn't stop them. Why do we need permission to save lives when they didn't need permission to take them? Elena felt something shift in the room's atmosphere. The child's logic was unassailable, her moral clarity cutting through layers of diplomatic complexity. Kira raises an excellent point, Elena said. We're not violating galactic law. We're using existing legal frameworks to protect our citizens exactly as predator species have used them to hunt. The only difference is our purpose. The Andromedan ambassador's crystalline features brightened, a sign of approval among their species, a symmetrical response. Elegant. Over the next 6 hours, they hammered out the details, military contributions from each species, training protocols adapted to various physiologies, communication networks that could coordinate response across multiple star systems, legal frameworks that provided protection without violating existing treaties. The Galactic Protection Initiative would begin operations within 30 standard days. As the meeting concluded and representatives departed to brief their respective governments, Elena found herself alone with Kira and Captain Reeves. Majesty, Reeves said carefully, this isn't a diplomatic initiative. It's effectively a war declaration against organized predation. Yes, Elena replied, and wars have consequences. The Circle won't respond to this peacefully. They'll escalate. They'll target our ships, our colonies, our civilians. Elena looked at Kira, who was studying the tactical displays with intense concentration. What would you have done, James? Left the girl to die? Left others to die? Continued attending diplomatic receptions while children disappeared into hunting grounds? Reeves paused, then nodded slowly. No, Majesty, I wouldn't have. Then we proceed. Kira looked up from the displays. Your Majesty, what happens to me now? Elena studied the girl's face, intelligent, brave, traumatized, but not broken. In the past 24 hours, Kira had gone from orphaned prey to diplomatic consultant to the symbolic heart of an intergalactic protection initiative. What would you like to happen? Elena asked. I want to help. I want to make sure no other children get grabbed like I did. That could be dangerous. The Circle will definitely target anyone associated with the protection initiative. Kira's silver eyes hardened with determination that belonged on a much older face. They already targeted me for being in the wrong place. At least if I helped make the initiative work, there was a purpose to the fear. Elena felt something settle in her chest, a sense that despite all the complexity and danger ahead, this decision was fundamentally right. Captain Reeves, she said formally, I'd like to create a new position within the Royal Diplomatic Service, Special Advisor for Protection Initiative Development. Majesty, she's 12 years old, and she has first-hand experience with predator hunting operations. She understands the prey perspective better than any adult diplomat. Elena paused. Besides, who better to design protection protocols than someone who actually needs protecting? Kira's face lit up with an expression of pure joy. For the first time since Elena had met her, the girl looked like the child she actually was. You mean it? You'd really let me help? I mean it. But Kira, this work will put you in constant danger. The Circle will see you as a high-value target. You'll need security, training, and more responsibility than most children ever face. I've been in danger since my parents died, Kira replied simply. At least this danger means something. 3 weeks later, the first Protection Initiative fleet launched from coordinates in human space. 12 ships from 7 species, each equipped with advanced sensors, defensive systems, and specialized rescue teams trained for rapid response to hunting emergencies. Elena stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the assembled fleet through the main view screen. Beside her, Kira wore a specially designed diplomatic uniform and carried herself with newfound confidence. "All ships report ready," Captain Reeves announced from his station. "Take us to our first patrol coordinates," Elena ordered. As the fleet engaged its hyperspace engines, Elena reflected on how drastically her life had changed. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a diplomatic queen focused on trade negotiations and peace treaties. Today, she was commanding a military force dedicated to hunting the hunters. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Your Majesty," Kira said quietly, "are you scared?" Elena considered the question seriously. They were about to engage in operations that could trigger wider conflicts, destabilize diplomatic relationships, and put countless lives at risk. The Circle's response would be swift and violent. Nothing about their future was certain except its danger. "Yes," Elena replied honestly. "Are you? Terrified?" Kira admitted, "but also excited. For the first time since my parents died, I feel like I'm part of something important." Elena smiled. "That makes 2 of us." The fleet dropped out of hyperspace near a neutral trading station where Circle operations had been reported. Long-range sensors immediately detected the signatures they'd been trained to recognize: Krex hunting pheromones, territorial markers, and the energy patterns of a hunting party in active pursuit. "Contact," the sensor officer announced. 2 Krex hunters pursuing a group of Andromedons through the station's lower levels. Elena felt her heart rate spike. "Their first test was here. All teams to stations," she ordered. "Launch rescue shuttles. Coordinate with station security. And remember, we're not here to start a war. We're here to save lives." The next 30 minutes passed in a blur of tactical coordination. Protection Initiative teams deployed throughout the station, locating the Andromedons and creating extraction routes. The Krex hunters found themselves surrounded by heavily armed defenders where they'd expected helpless prey. The psychological impact was immediate. Faced with organized opposition, the hunters retreated rather than risk confrontation with humans and their allies. All 7 Andromedons were extracted safely. "First mission successful," Captain Reeves reported. Elena nodded, but she knew this was only the beginning. The Circle would analyze this incident, adapt their tactics, and respond with escalated operations. The war for the hunted had officially begun. Over the next month, the Protection Initiative responded to 18 hunting incidents across 4 star systems. Their success rate was remarkable. Only 2 casualties among hundreds of potential victims saved. But the Circle's response was becoming increasingly aggressive. "They're targeting our supply lines," Captain Reeves reported during a briefing aboard the flagship. 3 human cargo ships attacked in the past week. 2 facilities on Zephyrian colonies destroyed. They're making this personal. Elena studied the tactical displays, noting the pattern of escalation. They want to make the cost of opposition higher than the benefit of protection. "Is it working?" Kira asked from her position at the planning table. The girl had proven remarkably adept at tactical analysis, approaching problems with a combination of intelligence and intuitive understanding that impressed even veteran officers. "Not yet," Elena replied, "but they're learning our response patterns. We need to change our approach." The holographic display shifted to show Circle operations throughout the sector. Elena noticed something that hadn't been apparent before. The hunting operations weren't random. They followed specific patterns targeting routes and locations with mathematical precision. "Kira," Elena said suddenly, "when you were grabbed in the marketplace, how long had you been there?"
"About an hour."
"I was watching the different species, trying to learn from their behavior. Did you notice anything unusual before the attack? Any sense that you were being watched?" Kira's expression grew thoughtful. "Actually, yes. There was a saurid vendor who kept looking at me. And a couple of species I didn't recognize seemed to be moving closer over time." Elena felt pieces clicking into place. Not random hunting. Coordinated stalking. "They were tracking you before the Krex made the grab." Captain Reeves leaned forward. "You think they're using observers to identify targets?" "I think they're using a network," Elena replied. "Multiple species, careful observation, coordinated attacks. That's why their operations are so successful. They're not hunting alone." The implications were staggering. If the Circle operated as an integrated network rather than individual predators, then stopping them would require far more than reactive protection. They would need to identify and disrupt the network itself. "Majesty," the communications officer announced. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Galactic Council headquarters." Elena's stomach tightened. The Council had been notably silent about Protection Initiative operations, but that silence couldn't last forever. "Put it through." The holographic display shifted to show Council Speaker Veldern, a massive amphibian whose species had remained neutral in most intergalactic conflicts. His expression was unreadable, but his posture suggested official displeasure. "Queen Elena," he began formally, "the Galactic Council has reviewed the recent unauthorized military operations conducted under the designation Protection Initiative. We are concerned." "About what specifically, Speaker Veldern?" "About the precedent being established. Military forces operating in neutral space without Council authorization. Armed interventions and legally sanctioned activities. The potential for escalation into broader conflicts." Elena felt Kira tense beside her. The girl understood that everything they'd built might be about to crumble under political pressure. "Speaker, with respect," Elena replied carefully, "the Protection Initiative operates strictly within existing legal frameworks. We are protecting citizens of member species using rights already established under galactic treaty provisions." "Technically correct," Veldern acknowledged. "But the Circle Consortium has filed formal complaints alleging harassment, illegal interference with commerce, and violation of hunting territories granted under neutral space accords." "And what is the Council's position on those complaints?" The speaker paused, his large eyes blinking slowly. "The Council recognizes the legal complexity of this situation. Both sides appear to be operating within their rights under different interpretations of existing law." Elena sensed an opening. Then perhaps the Council would support efforts to clarify those interpretations? "What do you propose?" Elena looked at Kira, who nodded encouragingly. They had discussed this possibility during their strategic planning sessions. "Formal hearings," Elena announced. "Full legal review of both circle hunting operations and Protection Initiative defensive actions. Let the Council determine once and for all whether organized predation is compatible with galactic peacekeeping principles." The request was brilliant in its simplicity. By calling for legal review rather than military action, Elena had shifted the argument from unauthorized operations to legitimate legal clarification. The Council couldn't refuse without appearing to avoid their own judicial responsibilities. Speaker Veldern's expression remained carefully neutral, but Elena caught a flicker of approval. "The Council will consider your proposal. In the meantime, all Protection Initiative operations will continue under current legal frameworks." The transmission ended. Elena realized she'd been holding her breath. "Well played, Majesty," Captain Reeves said quietly. "You've bought us time." "We've bought us time," Elena corrected, looking at Kira. "This was your idea during yesterday's planning session?" Kira blushed, her violet skin darkening slightly. "I just thought, if they want to use law against us, we should use law against them." "Exactly right." "And Kira?" "Yes, Your Majesty. Remind me to increase your diplomatic training hours. I have a feeling we're going to need more strategic thinking like that." 2 days later, everything changed. Elena was reviewing supply manifests when the emergency klaxon sounded throughout the flagship. Captain Reeves' voice came over the communication system with barely controlled urgency. "All hands to battle stations. Your Majesty to the bridge immediately." Elena ran, Kira close behind her. The bridge was in controlled chaos when they arrived, with officers coordinating defensive positions and sensor arrays scanning for threats. "Report," Elena demanded. "We've detected a massive fleet approaching our position," Reeves replied grimly. 57 ships from 12 different species, all of them known Circle affiliates. Elena stared at the tactical display. The opposing fleet was 3 times the size of the entire Protection Initiative. Even with their advanced defensive systems, this was overwhelming force. "They're hailing us," the communications officer announced. "On screen." The main view screen activated to show a conference room filled with representatives from various predator species. At the center sat the Krex hunter Elena had confronted in the marketplace, apparently now serving as the Circle's primary negotiator. "Queen Elena," the hunter said, its mandibles clicking with satisfaction, "you have caused considerable disruption to our operations." "That was the intent," Elena replied calmly. "Indeed." But disruption requires consequences. You have made yourself and your allies enemies of the Circle. Today we collect the debt. Elena felt ice form in her veins. Around her, the bridge crew prepared for combat while trying to calculate impossible odds. What debt? Elena asked, buying time while her officers completed battle preparations. The debt of interference, the debt of protection offered to natural prey. The debt of disrupting the cosmic order of predator and prey that has maintained stability for millennia. The hunter's compound eyes glittered with anticipation. Today, Queen, you learn what it means to be hunted. Elena looked at the tactical display one more time. 57 enemy ships versus 12 allied vessels. Experienced predator crews versus hastily trained protection teams. Normal military logic suggested immediate retreat. But normal military logic had never protected a 12-year-old girl from becoming prey. All ships, Elena announced over the fleet communication channel. Prepare for battle. Today we prove that hunters can become the hunted. The space around them erupted into the largest battle fought in neutral space in over a century. But even as energy weapons lit up the darkness and ships maneuvered for advantage, Elena found herself thinking not about tactics or casualties or political implications. She thought about one small girl who had looked at her with silver eyes and trusted that a human queen would keep her promise to protect her. Everything else was just details. The battle raged for 6 hours before the first reinforcements arrived, not from the Protection Initiative, but from the Galactic Council itself. Speaker Veldern had interpreted the Circle's massive fleet deployment as an unauthorized military action in neutral space, triggering Council peacekeeping protocols. When the shooting finally stopped, 17 Circle ships were disabled or destroyed. The Protection Initiative had lost 3 vessels but saved 9/10 of their personnel through superior defensive systems. More importantly, they had fought the Circle to a standstill and survived. As Elena stood on her damaged bridge, watching Council peacekeeping vessels establish a perimeter around both fleets, she felt Kira's small hand slip into hers. "We did it," the girl whispered. "We did what? We proved that prey can fight back. We proved that hunters aren't unstoppable." Elena smiled, looking out at the debris field that had once been the Circle's overwhelming advantage. "Yes, we certainly did that." Captain Reeves approached with a damage report and a communication from the Galactic Council. "Majesty, Speaker Veldern wants to discuss immediate ceasefire terms, and the Circle is requesting negotiation protocols." Elena squeezed Kira's hand gently. "Tell the Speaker we're prepared to discuss terms. And tell the Circle that negotiation begins with the immediate cessation of all hunting operations in neutral space." "And if they refuse?" Reeves asked. Elena looked at the tactical display where Council reinforcements continued to arrive. 30 ships, 50, 100. The largest peacekeeping deployment in galactic history, all triggered by her decision to protect one orphaned child. "Then," Elena said quietly, "we introduce them to the new cosmic order. One where prey don't run from predators. They organize, fight back, and win." Kira's silver eyes blazed with fierce satisfaction. Around them, the Protection Initiative fleet began rescue operations for survivors from both sides of the battle. The war for the hunted was far from over, but for the first time in galactic history, the hunters had learned what it felt like to be afraid. And in the end, Elena thought, that might be the most important lesson of all.